Welcome to a special edition of the Jag Wire podcast. Today, Josh Allen, yes, that's my real name, and Sammy Football, the founder of the Feast, are very pleased to have with us Freddie from the Franchise Tag podcast. Freddie is an actual UK fan of the NFL, a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, a fan who has been to games in the UK and in the US, and we're really excited to have him on the podcast to talk about what it's like to be an NFL fan while living in the UK. So, Freddie, first of all, thanks for being here, man, and tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, well, thanks for the introduction, Josh, and it's nice to see you, Sammy, again.
Good to see you, Freddie.
Yeah, basically been to the NFL for a fair few years now. Sort of got into it through. It's difficult in the UK to get into a sport that isn't really taught on grassroots level like it is in the US, and we don't have the college system like you do have in the US. So you have to find sort of creative ways to get into it. And really, for me, it was a friend we were playing Madden, and I sort of got into Madden, and he was saying, "Oh, you should check out these players on YouTube." And really, it was really steering towards the Seattle Seahawks because it was the era of Legion of Boom and like Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. I was like, guys, these guys are pretty cool, like the outspokenness, the hard hitting. But man, as soon as the video came on of Troy Polamalu and then flowing locks coming out of his helmet, I was just drawn to him. And to be honest with you, I'm quite drawn to leaders. Right. Like for me, he was one of the ultimate leaders, like, you know, silent but deadly, sort of led by action, and sort of just went from there. And sort of chatted to a few people at work saying, you know, you guys into this NFL stuff as well. And it turned out there was like 2 or 3 that were really, really into it, a lot more than I was. And it sort of built from them. And slowly over the years, we've built a really good community of friends to go with. I mean, the game last year at Tottenham, we had like 16 of us went, not all in the same spot, but like dotted around the stadium. So we've really built like a really great community, and doing the podcasting as well has really, you know, built a really strong NFL UK community out here.
So what's the experience like watching the games when you're not going to them? I mean, some of those are pretty late in the evening. Do you watch a lot of them live, or are you guys able to record them and watch them later?
So we have the opportunity. So Sky Sports shows it here, which they'll get it through like Fox or ESPN. So they'll only show limited amount of games. On some NFL, Sky Sports have like a specific NFL channel here that will show Red Zone, but nearly all of us opt for Game Pass. So I have Game Pass. The only problem with Game Pass is if the game is being shown on Sky, it will be blacked out, which is annoying, but people find, you know, in the world of VPNs and stuff like that.
Thank God for VPNs.
There's always a way. There's always a way to watch your team. So a lot of us will like watch our team on telly, but have our laptops or iPads or phones on with Red Zone because, you know, you can sort of pan in and out. And it's, I mean, the games start like 6 p.m. here. And then the next games, obviously for you guys, that's like at like 2. And then next games here are like 9, half 9 in the evening, and then the late games are about 1 in the morning. But I worked in, I don't anymore, but I worked in hospitality my whole life pretty much. So finishing work on a Sunday or finishing on a Thursday night or Monday night at like 11 maybe, by the time I get home, you go, oh well, half an hour the game's on, and I'd have to be until 4 o'clock tomorrow evening so I can watch a game. So I've been quite lucky.
So a Sunday night game essentially would be like 2 a.m. essentially.
Yeah, if
and pardon my voice, I'm struggling with something right now, but some type of sickness. We don't know anymore. It could be anything, but yeah. So it's like 2 a.m. right there.
Yeah, for your like prime time game, I suppose. For like what's billed as like the late game, the 8 o'clock game, that would be like 1 in the morning here for us. Ooh. And then with how it is, you know, like fourth quarter's never 15 minutes, and it can go on to like 4 or 5. Like Super Bowls until like if the Super Bowl finishes about 4:30 for us, we're like, wow, that game went quick. Like some Super Bowls for us go on till like 6. You know, the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl, for example, that was like 6 in the morning for us, and it's like that turn of, you know, sort of winter coming into spring, and it can be like a little bit light outside, and you're thinking, but it is all worth it. We love it over here. We're committed.
And I complained about having to wake up at 8 a.m. to watch the Jaguars the other day.
Hey Sam, I'll edit this bit out, but nerf your mic a little bit if you can kill the gain.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me if I'm hot on your end also, because I know
you're not. Hold on, let me change my echo. Go ahead.
So the first thing I guess I really want to talk about is the experience of going to the games, right? I've never been to a game in the UK, but been to lots of games here. One of the jokes that American fans that have been to some of the games make about the fans in the UK are that they don't know when to cheer and when to not cheer, right? And I don't know how true that is, but I know, is there a difference, I guess, between when you're supposed to get loud during like an NFL game as opposed to like one of your football games? Because one of the hallmarks of an NFL game, when you have a good healthy home crowd, when the other team has the ball, you just make as much noise as possible.
Well, and to be fair, I think, Freddie, you've been to a game in the U.S., right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I've been to a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a difference in that, like the game experience with that?
The whole game experience in total, I mean, you guys have got it amazingly. Like times in the day, tailgating is just awesome. I mean,
my favorite part.
I've been to only 2 games in America. I went to, the year must have been around 2013, because no, it can't be that late. It must have been about 2018, 2016 maybe. OBJ was at the Giants, and it was the Eagles Giants. I saw them in Philly. And then I've just come back from Florida recently, and I watched the Bills Dolphins game when I was out there, the one where Tua got concussed and everything like that. And I mean, I think game day experience in America is phenomenal. The tailgating's fantastic. It's wild. It's good fun. It's just such a great time. And inside the stadium's great as well. This is what we encourage people who want to maybe get into the NFL here to do, is to try and go to a game, because I can admit at home it gets dull. We don't have as much advertisement television as you guys do in the US, and so therefore adverts for us get quite dull quite quickly, especially for how long the games go on as well, because they are a long time.
Well, and there are so many different fans, right, that attend. It's not like
so
here where a majority are either or. There, it's pretty much a collective 32, right?
Yeah, it's rare that there is a obvious. I mean, it depends on the team. It's always a mixed crowd. There's always so many jerseys. That's part of the fun of it. Is seeing other Steeler fans. I had 2 Steeler fans this weekend at the game. High-fived me, called to me, and chat to me for 10 minutes about Steelers and about NFL and stuff. Like that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
And like we're quite into our like vintagey gear. So like if you see cool old school shirts, like we saw like a really cool Jerry Rice shirt and a couple rows in front of us, that's cool as well, and it's good that. But I have to admit, Jacksonville the problem is it's seen as London fans. It's not, because it's the UK. Like I know the UK is small in comparison to America, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are very heavily supported here because you are the team that comes most often. And I don't blame people if they're getting into the NFL. If you're going to support a team, you might as well support a team that you're probably going to see more often than not. But on the flip side of that, I mean, there is fans of every team in this country, and it also influences more when we have good travelling fans. The Packers-Giants game, London was green. There was Packers fans everywhere. It was huge eruptions of "Go Pack Go" and everything like that, and that was all. It was awesome. And if you went to that game, you'd probably go, "I want to be a Green Bay Packer fan." I mean, they were selling the cheeseheads for like $70 though, so you know.
Are there Chargers fans there? Have you ever actually seen a Chargers fan? Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Shocker.
I mean, it's every team. We saw some guys play bingo on the day and stuff like that. In terms of the original question though, of when we chant and cheer or not, I think there's a stubbornness amongst UK fans that if you tell us to cheer, we're not going to do that because we choose when we cheer. You know, that sort of thing. It's like a bit of an abrasive, like we're not good. Yeah, we'll stick it to the man. We're gonna get told what to do. But I have to say, like we would go equally as wild for the wild plays. I think that's maybe something that maybe is different when you are the away team. When the Texans come to visit you guys, you know, if a wild play happens, a huge play to Brandon Cooks, there's not a big cheer because it's a Jags home crowd. Whereas here, because it is such a mixed crowd, like that huge play that Russell Wilson did to KJ Hamler at the weekend, it was like 60 yards. Everyone went nuts for it because we're happy to see a big play, I suppose.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It's a cultural thing too, not cultural like U.S. versus U.K., but like a football culture. I think the football culture is more ingrained, especially in certain parts of the U.S. because you also have college football, right? Like growing up, having gone to many college games and a handful of NFL games, you don't have to tell me when to cheer. Now our stadiums do it as well. They still put the get loud, the make noise.
Well, they pump. They pump like fake audience sometimes.
That's just the Colts. That's just the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's sort of almost an etiquette to when you cheer and when you don't, and when you should stand up and how long you should stand up. And I've been told that UK fans don't understand that, but I would think that's partly just because American football hasn't been there as long, even though it's crazy. The first UK game was played in 2007.
That's crazy.
My very close friend has been to he's missed maybe 2 or 3 games. He's definitely missed 2 games this year because he got married and then honeymoon. But he was at the first game. He's a Giants fan. I think the first game was either Giants Patriots or Giants Dolphins. I can never remember.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying too about picking up a team whose fans travel well. Especially when you don't have any, you're much farther removed just physically, like just the distance between like all the teams and where London and the rest of, the UK sites have been is farther removed. So there is something cool about that too, because on a college perspective, I'm a big Florida Gator fan. I didn't really care about college football until one day my dad took me to a Florida Gator game. And that needs to be your next experience, Freddie. You need to find a time to come to Jacksonville, and I will hook you up with some Gator fans. We'll get you to get you to a Jags game and a.
You're not ready for that.
I can imagine. I really wanted to go when I was in Florida, but like for you guys, 3 hours down the road, that's fine. 3 hours to us is a very long time in our way of traveling. So it was a bit far for us to go. But one of our close friends in our circle is a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, has family in Jacksonville. So he goes there a lot, and a very good friend of ours, and he loves it over there. But another point you make there with like new fans, we took a new fan to the game because we had a free ticket. Some friends of ours, things happened and they couldn't go. So a friend of mine who's just moved to the area, he's friends of our group anyway, said, "Look, I'd be really pumped to go. I was going to come for drinks before anyway, because I live in London. So I'd love to go." And he was like, "Yeah, well, I'm going to support the Jags because." This is a great game. They're playing really well. I've seen the first touchdown I've ever seen was Evan Engram in the corner, and
that's cool.
It was like cool. But at the same time, because it tends to be small pockets of friendship groups, you want people to have a diverse selection of teams. So unfortunately, we were sort of trying to push the Chiefs on him because we were like, well, they're good, and if
you're like, you don't want to. This is a poverty franchise, man. You don't want to support them.
I told Freddie before he hopped on, Sammy. I do not blame anyone anywhere, UK or otherwise, that looks at the Jags and says, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want to be a part of that."
I think that's why I'm sick right now. They stressed me out that bad.
I honestly, I said it at the end of the game, and I still stand by it. You deserve to beat the Denver Broncos. You were all over them. I don't know if that came over on television but live, you guys were way better. You were killing.
Yeah, man, that's been the story of the whole season, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. Every game we've lost, we have done it to they have done it to themselves. I bring my A game every week. I'm a winner regardless of the outcome on the field. But and that did kind of, watching the game, it actually did, and that's why that's almost more maddening than when they're just terrible, right?
Well, so that same how like Facebook has memories. So I had looked at my Facebook memories, and 11 years ago on that day, I had put on Facebook that Jack Del Rio, our head coach at the time, had said in the locker room, which made me mad, but here we are 11 years later and it's still true. He had said, "We're pretty close to being pretty good." And I'm like, some things never. And Snoop Dogg 11 years ago to that day said, "The Jaguars have got to be the stupidest franchise in the NFL." And that's still true.
And then that's still true because we traded draft picks for a suspended wide receiver today.
Thank God. Thank God. If it was not for the Franchise Tag podcast, I was watching their podcast when that happened. And I was like, wait a minute. What did he just say? And I'm like, hold on. I get on Twitter and I start calling everyone.
I mean, I know
stupid.
Sammy's heard my opinion on it already, but I think that's really shrewd business. I think that's some good business by you guys today. I think he was a number one wide receiver with the Falcons. He was outplaying Julio. Okay, Julio's on the decline. Yes, he's suspended now, but if it came to April, you would have given up more. Someone would have given up more. So
I just think it's funny,
business.
like it's so Jaguars to trade for a guy with so many contingencies, first of all, because like it's very rare that you have that many contingencies on a trade, but so many contingencies, and on top of the fact that he's currently suspended for betting against the Jaguars. Like you can't get any more Jaguars than that.
And just in the high level, my thought on it is because they feel like they're on the verge of turning things around and actually being competitive, like actually competitive. Usually trades are used to make your team better immediately, right? And of course, the Jaguars jump in at the trade deadline and do something that maybe could make us better a year or two down the road, right? It's like, oh, okay, that's definitely the most. But I get it. Like if it works out, I hope I'm wrong and it works out and Calvin Ridley comes back. You also with Calvin Ridley, he had some mental health issues too. Like my worry for somebody like that is like, yes, I want him to be successful in the football field, and I would love it if it was with my team. But what you don't want is another guy that's suffering like Antonio Brown is with CTE and I God forbid the rest of Calvin Ridley's life is affected in a negative way because he played a couple more seasons of football, I guess, is the weird thought I had also when it comes to that stuff. But I don't know.
It's definitely warmer betting in Florida than it is in Georgia. So
that's true.
At least you can buy the pool putting bets.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Yeah,
luxury betting.
Yeah, there's no rule that he can't attend games. I guess he could get a ticket and hang out in the pools, in the stadium and play some bets. Do you think so? All right, so let's talk doomsday scenario. And Jags fans are going to hate this. Let's say the Jags did move to London. From what you know and have seen about football in the UK, and I hate it too. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't even like talking about it.
Could London support a team? Do you think? And if so, do you think they would support the Jaguars if they brought their terrible brand of football to your stadiums?
If the Jags moved to London, they would certainly go on the support of the UK of the British people, because it would be, you get to see them week in, week out.
Right.
But I still think it would be the same scenario of a lot of mixed jerseys, a lot of people going. I think for me, my MO with all of the NFL is NFL can only grow here. And it's grown at a fantastic rate already. It's grown. We are seeing attendances, records broke season on season on season. Every year it gets more publicity, more things happen. But it will never be as big as it can be here unless it is taught on a grassroots level. And unless it is in the schools being taught, there's more amateur game. There's more of a European circuit, I suppose, even though there's huge support in Germany and in Spain and in France, huge support for the NFL there as well. It will not grow here. So I don't think it would work. I don't think it's right to move from Jacksonville. I don't think it's fair on you guys as fans there at all. Right. And my thing is also, it's an occasion. For us, it's an occasion. It is something we look forward to all year, all off season, about when it gets around to the schedule being, we get excited about the schedule being released, right? Because we get to see who I know one game usually gets earlier, and we know the Jags are going to play, but it's exciting. Yeah,
you get more variety as a fan.
Yeah.
Well, and I said that
we've had some stinkers, Josh. We've had some absolute stinkers. Oh, for sure. Don't get me wrong. We've had some.
A couple of them have been the Jags games that have been the stinkers. So I've watched. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so I always use it as an example, like when they had World Cup football here and the US played Scotland, it sold out. Bro, like it completely sold out the whole stadium, but that's because, football is not big. Soccer, for our American listeners, is not as big here, so it's something different. So I feel like, I know that there's rumors that they're talking about expanding into Europe completely and like starting like a complete different division over there. But I don't think I think moving like a current franchise, that wouldn't even make sense, because if you bombed it, then that franchise is bombed. And your fans, you're not going to be able to go back. Your fans are going to be mad. And I know that the London games themselves, each team receives it's like 10 or 11% extra revenue to their team from playing in London. So it's like, are you going to receive that same kind of revenue for every single game if you were to move your team versus going over there and just creating a fan base that you get to see? I don't know. I hope not.
You make a great point there about like the revenue and stuff like that, because I know obviously there was this big thing with loads of teams signing the copyright stuff that they could sell their merch in Europe and stuff like that. I know that sort of felt like it was a transition, and then of course the NFL pumping all the money into the Tottenham Hotspur ground, being the ground that's the only NFL purpose-built stadium outside of America, which in my opinion,
is that the one where the field is underneath?
Yeah.
That is wild. I never knew.
Yeah.
Have you seen that, Josh?
No.
They keep a field underneath that gets like aerated and mowed by robots, and then it like literally rolls out.
Where is this? That's the Tottenham Hotspur?
Yes.
Yeah, Tottenham Hotspur. So
crazy.
I only live half an hour away from that stadium, which is great, and I work there occasionally as well.
It's crazy.
With the job that I do, and that stadium. So Wembley is our national stadium. I have to admit, the Jags Denver game being at Wembley, and it's been the home of the Jags, I felt it just didn't have the same as Tottenham does, because it is been built for it. Now the reality is Tottenham ran out of money. They ran out of money, and they were late as well. That's why we also had games at Twickenham, which is our rugby national stadium, which was a good stadium as well. They ran out of money, couldn't get it built in time, and said, how are we going to do this? Okay, we'll sign a huge contract with the NFL for them to have games here. And pretty much the NFL paid for, I think, over 60% of the whole stadium. So there's a lot of business to do with this, as well as just the NFL in general. That was the true reality of why NFL is at Tottenham. But at that stage, there's a lot of fans, soccer fans or football fans to me, that would be upset by me saying Tottenham, because they're not a very well supported team in terms of in the country. Not many people like them as a team. But their stadium, but everyone admits their stadium.
They play their games on TV here in the U.S. all the time. Like you would think that like they're like wildly yeah, man. Tottenham like to the point where like I was like, man, if I had to pick like a soccer team, like they would be on the list of ones where I'd be like, oh, I might support.
Which is really strange, because the Glazer family own the Bucks and Manchester United. And I know Manchester United worldwide. I support that, and also Stan Kroenke. There's never been anything really with Arsenal, who's Stan Kroenke's team, obviously former owner of the Rams. Right. So that's never really linked up either, really, to do that. But I suppose they sort of keep their revenues in different places. But no, I for me, my personal opinion is I want more games, not a permanent team.
Yeah.
I'm really exceedingly happy that Germany got their game. I know Germany, again, to us here is a faraway place, but in America, in terms, it's not really probably a faraway place. But I'm more happy for that. I like that expansion. I think if NFL is going to do anything, it's not more games in London. It's not a franchise over here, and I think it's going to be more games overseas. I think it's expanding the brand. Now, do
you think, back to this like kind of question, but do you think that the Jaguars fan base itself has grown over there? Because our owner has come out and said like he was so happy to see all these Jaguar fans, but looking at it on TV and like seeing photos, like there was like a little bar that they had posted, a pub that they had posted pictures in it. I mean, there were a few, but it wasn't overwhelmingly a bunch of Jaguar fans. Do you notice like a large increase in Jaguars fans there?
I wouldn't say. It's tough because Wembley is such a big stadium. I didn't feel like there was any overriding home or away support at the last game, but I haven't felt that way historically. I have felt like there has been more Jags fans in there historically. I think if any team's growing with support here, it is the Jags. I don't have the math, I don't know the numbers, but looking around visually, there is. Now, your owner has very strategically. There's two pubs that sort of host a team in London, and he's taken a photo there clearly of the Jags fans all enjoying themselves, which is quite clearly staged. But
even then, there was still like I could find
not that many.
I could still find other teams amongst them. I was like, it's not solely Jags fans.
But I don't know whether. Well, I suppose it's not Shad. I was about to say it was Shad Khan's photo, but it clearly isn't. Someone has taken that photo and then used that. Right. But I don't know whether you don't know what time of day they were there or anything like that. If they were there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe on a Friday, there wouldn't be that many people there. But I do think there is a rising support for the Jaguars here. I don't think there is an overriding sense of we want the Jags to move here by them fans. I think they're quite content. The team coming over once a year and maybe even twice a year. I know there was deals before COVID that they would come over twice a year. Don't know how loose or strong them connections are now. But it centres around a lot about Wembley as well. Shad Khan actually wanted to buy Wembley Stadium, which was a very big controversy in the country. Which
we heard all about that.
Yeah, what was the problem? Like, why were people upset? I forget like what the deal was with that.
I have to admit, I'm not entirely educated.
Yeah, I don't know.
I heard it was something about, from what I read, Scottish Yard, right? Which would be like your FBI, I would assume.
Yeah,
like
Scotland Yard's like how
Scotland Yard, okay. Yeah. Had caught wind or was investigating some sort of bribery in connection to that purchase.
Oh, geez Louise, okay.
Well, that's what I read. So whether that's true, I don't know. But,
I just wanted it, like, listen, you're probably going to hate this, Freddie. I just wanted an American to own that stadium because I thought it would be funny. Stadium. I just thought, like,
yeah, but that's I also was a slap in the face. Like, somebody made the point, like, what if somebody came and bought, like, the Capitol building? Like, you can't, you know what I mean? That's a historical place. And he's not American anyways. Well, he is. He's an American citizen, but he's not an American national.
Yeah, like, if a British person bought Yankee Stadium.
Right.
Like people would be like, that's not cool.
Or Fenway Park.
Yeah, no,
like, whoa, this is not okay. So
no. Gotta keep it in the family, like the Titans fans.
Mayo gang. When you hear this, Titans fans, shout out your favorite brand of mayo.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to explain that to Freddie at another time because.
I'll explain it now. It's very simple, Freddie. Yeah. Titans fans were caught on camera during a game eating mayonnaise from a jar. And Jaguars fan base will never let them forget it. They're all a bunch of mayo-eating, raccoon hat-wearing weirdos, and we don't like them. So we sang "Bang Bang Mayo Gang" all the time. Bang Mayo Gang.
Like one of our tailgates, the first game. I'm sure you've been to a tailgate. They get wild. The Bold City Brigade I believe it was Bold City Brigade. It might have been the Teal Street Hooligans. They did a tailgate where they had like mayonnaise wrestling for the Titans. Like, we'll never let it go.
Our mascot Jackson DeVille jumped into a giant tub of mayo at one point too to make fun of them. But anyway, it's a long running joke. So I guess really, that's all the questions I had. I don't know if there's anything else you want to cover, Sam, but what's your biggest surprise this year, Freddie, about the season in general? Like just across football, like what has jumped out to you as maybe surprising or not what you expected?
Deshaun Watson and Antonio Brown do not count.
Well, I have an Antonio Brown Steelers jersey. It's been retired, but it's
you should wear it and see. Wear it and a GoPro. I just want to see the reaction.
There's a lot of bold people at the UK stadium wearing them, which I don't entirely agree with, but I think it's more of a statement piece than anything. But what's been my most surprising thing? I mean, the Bills' dominance isn't surprising because they're just so good. And in fact, no, my most surprising thing, because he is my favorite non-Steelers player, is how Russell Wilson hasn't clicked in Denver.
Yeah, that's such a weird story.
Yeah.
Oh, except when he played my team, right? He did pretty great this past Sunday.
No, he didn't. He was not good against you guys.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Did he do good?
He won the game, right? He won.
No, the Jaguars choked. That's a big difference.
Yeah. For me, it's been Tom Brady getting divorced and now like giving up his family and his wife and half of his fortune to come back to a Bucs team that's now 2-5. I don't know, but
you don't get 6 rings if you don't cut ties with the people you love.
I get it, man. I guess so. Like, you got to be a little bit ruthless to be that successful, the greatest of all time. But I think my favorite meme this year from the Tom Brady stuff was a picture of a kid in a football Halloween costume, and they're like, "Oh, this is what Tom Brady's kids have to dress up as to get attention."
Oh my god!
I have to admit, I did make sure I had these with me to show you guys.
Yeah, love it.
Which I do admit we're getting flown very vigorously at the start of the game.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they've gone very eco-friendly. It always used to be a plastic thing, but now it's like a very much reinforced cardboard.
Oh,
Which,
saving the planet.
When beers get spilt over, which they inevitably do at NFL games, they just completely disintegrate, and it's just left with this soggy sort of thin bit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's how I feel about straws, man. Like, what's the point? Like, come on.
I mean, to be fair, it's better than Jags flags some year. One year, you clearly were really running out of money, and they just gave us like gold tinfoil flags, and it was where we were like, come on, like.
Freddie,
well, see,
tell them what they did this year.
Okay, so I'm salty because the Cons gave out. I don't know if you saw my tweet, Freddie, because we're on Twitter together. But I've been my family, because I was 9 years old at the time, founding members of the Jaguars. They gave me a hat, like a bucket hat, that says season ticket member, and a plastic bag and a 2022 magnet that I couldn't pick up until November. Or December 18th, a 2022 schedule magnet. So then I see that Fulham all their season ticket members got scarves.
Oh.
But the Jaguars got a freaking clear bag and a 2022 magnet at the ass end of 2022.
Yes, the magnet which will arrive once the season is over, Freddie.
I mean, it is pretty. I would say this is a very broad statement, I suppose, but the difference between some American sports and British sports is it does feel like some teams, I suppose, in the UK, there is teams that definitely don't do this, do have a finger on the pulse with their fans, and provides. I mean, where I'm from, I'm not a Leicester City fan, but Leicester City famously won the league a couple of years ago. It was like 100-1. They never should have won it. It was like the Lions winning the Super Bowl this year. It was like it would never happen, sort of thing. And they did like so many things for them. Like they bought, like the owner bought a beer for every fan who had a ticket. I think like twice that year.
That'd be nice.
There was like 1 week they all got a donut. Like they got like loads and loads of cool things. Like they were so cool. Like, and I do think sometimes that is a little bit lost with because they are, franchises are so big. And also you have the college game. Like this is what we try to educate people over here about is like. Here, you're never really more than 2 hours away from your team if you live in the local area.
Right.
I mean, the closest you're going to be is probably about half an hour. If you're really lucky, you're a 10-minute walk. If you're like, right next to the stadium or whatever. Whereas obviously in your country, it's so much more big. You can be a Dallas Cowboys fan and be 6 hours away. And then they're like, well, why is the college football game so good on? Because if you live 6 hours away from your club, your franchise, you've probably got 20 colleges around you, and 5 are probably elite colleges. Yep. So it would make sense to support them. Yeah, so especially, obviously there's Florida Gators, the Seminoles. God, I can't remember the other one now. Knights?
Yeah, UCF, Central Florida.
UCF, yeah. Knights,
Central Florida, South Florida, Miami. There's so many.
Yeah, Miami as well. Yeah, you've got so many just in Florida. And, Florida's very lucky if it has 3 teams in state as well, So it's just very... It is very different in that fan base of support, and you get it. And like I said, Jacksonville Jaguars coming here is just going to grow your fan base, and I think it is doing that very well. I think you are getting better, no matter that you both feel like you're not getting better. I think you are. I think you've made some really good draft picks. I didn't agree with the Trayvon Walker pick. I thought Aiden Hutchinson should have gone. I'm not wrong, I don't think, but Walker has proved that he was worthy of a number 1 pick. I think Devin Lloyd is just killing it for you. Yeah. He's such a good player. Kirk, okay, people deemed it bad business, but he's been very good for you guys. I think you're building that O-line.
I call that Kirkflation. We caused wide receiver inflation with that one.
Yeah.
Well, when your team isn't good and you're in a small market, sometimes you have to overspend, and people don't like it, but that's just sort of the business aspect of you got to get some talent on board in order to set the team up for future success. I do think they're better. I just, I'm tired of better. I want them to actually be at least somewhat good at some point, right? So that's where the frustration, I guess, comes in on the part of some of the fans.
Oh, I do have one last question, Freddie.
All right.
Because you were there. You were there. There was a play in that game where the Broncos, from what it looked like on television, were short of a first down. And they gave them 2 yards, which converted them on third down into a first down. Then there was also the last play of the game.
Yeah.
Hit or miss. I it looked to me like he was just short, but I'm a homer and I'm a little biased. But they went to review it and they didn't even watch it.
I remember that if it's the same play we're talking about, which I'm pretty sure it is. I remember my friend next to me. I mean, I wanted more the Broncos to win because I had Cortland Sutton in fantasy football, so I'd had different emotions.
Yeah.
But my friend was supporting Denver as well, and him and his friend, they always have a bet, and one of them supports the other, and they have an allegiance. He's a Giants fan, and he went, "Oh, he's got it," and I went, "I don't think he did. I think he was short." And he sort of went, and before we knew it sort of just carried on playing. And admittedly, beers had been drunk by this point. Maybe we weren't paying attention that much, but I thought it was short, and on the TV it was short.
Yeah,
well.
Everybody.
It was like a solid 2 yards that they gave them, maybe a yard and a half. But they gave, and they didn't even. There was no question. And then at the end of the game, that could have been. You would have to pick that apart to really tell. But they were just like, who cares? It's the Jaguars, pretty much. Like they brought out the thing to review. And I had posted it on my Twitter. He runs up and he's like, "Oh, nope," and he walks away. He doesn't even look at the screen.
There's the headset they put on, and then they look into this little monitor to review. And the guy
he doesn't even look.
He takes the headphones and then stops for a second and just hands it back to the guy.
And then he goes, after the review. You're like, what review?
What review?
What are you talking about?
You have to admit, with some refs, and there has been some ref play last season, and this season is. Sometimes I think it is the occasion or the player. The most horrendous call I've seen this year was the roughing the passer, Grady Jarrett sacking Tom Brady, which was just
so stupid.
Like a textbook modern day sack. Like I've always had when that rule got put in place, like my friends and fans would be like, it's just hitting the quarterback, and I'd be like, well, no. If Aaron Donald and Chris Jones and players like that don't get penalised for roughing the passer ever, and yet these edge rushers are like, clearly they know the rule. They're just not good enough to enforce.
They literally want them to like place their hand under their head and slowly lie them down in their crib.
And Jared, I think, what is a textbook sack on a quarterback these days?
Right? Yeah.
But Tom Brady, you got to admit, he has power over the refs. He does, and rightly so.
Well, I don't think he does anymore, though, because I think Giselle was a witch who was putting spells on the refs. I think now they're divorced. She's not putting those hexes on there anymore, and now Tom Brady's coming back down to earth a little bit.
I agree.
So I've got a question for you guys, really. Sorry to spin this back on. This is just the hosting me coming out, I suppose.
Yeah, man.
We obviously care about our London NFL very much, and we care about the UK games a hell of a lot. And I know this is probably the wrong question to ask Jags fans, because obviously you guys are so linked with it. But do people in America really care about NFL expanding and more not franchises, but more games into London? Do they care that their teams might be going to London? Are teams sort of apprehensive that they will come to London because of the travel, because of losing a home game? That's what we got the impression about the Packers for so many years. They were the last team to come here, and that was this year. So every team in the NFL has now been to London.
I think teams don't want to give up. Teams that get a lot of revenue from their home games are more hesitant to come, right? So the Packers and some of the other, like the Cowboys, they're going to be a lot more hesitant to come play a home game there, where they wouldn't necessarily mind to play, an away game in that stadium. Are there some coaching staffs or front offices that don't want to make the trip because it is a long trip and a long flight, and there's an adjustment when you get there as far as what time zone you're on and all that good stuff. Maybe there is, but it doesn't seem like as much anymore, because I think the NFL is incentivizing the teams financially to go over there. From a fan perspective, I think the Jaguars fans are only nervous about it because people keep constantly telling us that our team's going to move there. If Shad Khan could somehow guarantee that the team wasn't going to move, I actually think it's pretty neat. Like, I'm not totally against it, and I would one day want to go to London and see the Jaguars play a game in London. It only makes me nervous because we hear these same old tired jokes all the time, about the Jags moving to London. But other fan bases don't seem to care. They seem to. I don't know. I'm not super connected with every other fan base in the league, but I don't see the same sort of angst about London games from other fan bases, because I don't think they're worried at all that their team's going to move.
It's like, sending your I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of a hypothetical here, but like, you know, you're sending out your team who is, you can't get like solid. We're so wishy-washy because we suck, right? We're like poverty franchise. So our fans, you know, they're tired of it. And then you hear these rumors. So diehard fans, like fans that are like in it, we get like a little skeptical, especially when they keep trying to give away our home games, because they were talking about doing 3 at one point, which we were like, dang, like, you know, it's hard. Like, I get excited. I like he said, I want to go. Like, I'm going next year. I'm just throwing that out in the universe. I'm going next year. But it does get kind of nerve wracking, because I would be devastated. I know that sounds like so dramatic, but I would be devastated if we lost our team. I really would. So I think that's the part you don't want people to love them too much. Love them just enough. Just enough.
And do you think, because I know you were chatting to, I know obviously Sam, we've chatted to Gareth quite a lot, a good close friend of ours over the franchise tag who helps us out every now and then. And you said that the other week, you were saying there was no fans in the stadium. And then I watched the game and I was like, he said to me about it, and I said, well, I thought there was those fans there, and I watched the highlights, and I did sort of visually go like, wow, there's not many fans in the Jag Stadium.
So the Giants,
I don't really get that.
Yeah, the Giants, the Steelers, and the Cowboys have, 50, 60, and the Packers, franchises like that have been around 50, 60 years or longer, have huge followings, right? So these people make it a point to like go where the
especially when they're good.
Yeah, where the weather doesn't suck during the season. So the problem that we have in Jacksonville is that usually if the Steelers, the Giants, the Packers, one of those teams comes to town, it starts to get very tempting to sell your ticket, because there's always lots of fans of those teams that want to come to the game. And sometimes, dude, you can sell those tickets for so much that you actually just pay for the rest of your tickets for the season. Now, it drives me nuts. And I'm a curmudgeon, and I feel like I'm disloyal if I do that. And I've never done that any of the times I've had season tickets. But I sort of understand the monetary appeal of selling tickets to some of those games. But it infuriates me that Jag fans knowingly sell their tickets to opposing teams, for inflated prices. But the Jags don't help either, because the Jags take the single game tickets and they jack the prices up when they know those fan bases are coming to town, which again, monetarily, I understand.
And I pointed this out, and it sounds like, I know Josh was still angry about it. Maybe he's over it by now.
No.
But, you're not. Okay.
Still mad.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
And I hate my team that the team enables this sort of behavior, right, by sucking on the field for so long. But anyway.
Well, so Tom Coughlin, who was the coach of the Jaguars and the Giants. Wow, I don't know why I almost said Titans, and the Giants. He still lives in Jacksonville, and he has it's like a childhood cancer foundation. It's called the J Fund. Well, since it's October, it's the Crucial Catch game. They had the J Fund out there. And at first I thought they had done a fan experience for Giants fans, because the J Fund's colors that they had chosen for this game, which we played the Giants, was Giants blue. Okay. So a lot of people, yes, there were a lot of Giants fans. It's the same as like when the Bears were good and they traveled because they were doing well or whatever. There were a lot of Giants, but there were a lot of Jaguars fans wearing J Fund shirts that were Giants blue.
That's not the big chunk of it. Sammy and I disagree on this. That's not the big chunk of people that were there.
I know there was at least 200 of them on the field prior to the game, because I was pissed, thinking that it was a Giants fan club or something.
I understand the appeal to an extent, even though I wouldn't do it myself. If you're a Jags fan, the team sucks, but you want to go to the games, and you can basically go to the games for free, other than like parking and the food that you eat, by selling your tickets to a game. I sort of get it, right? The cure to that is winning on the field. When the Jags have been good at the tail end of 2017, when the Seahawks came to town, because that's another fan base that travels pretty well when their team is good. When the tail end of that season, the Jags season ticket members stopped selling their tickets to those other teams, because I still say the vast majority of Jags fans would rather be in the stadium and watch the Jags win than make their money back on their tickets. But it becomes more tempting when the team sucks.
And do you think if Shad Khan came out tomorrow and said no chance we're ever moving to London, case closed, that's it, we're done with it, we'll play our games there, that's it, do you think the stadium would fill up a bit more?
Yes.
I would buy season tickets tomorrow.
Everybody would. Everybody would become loyal because they don't want to invest. I mean, at this point, the only reason I still have mine is for my tenure, you know, because I'm a tenured season ticket member, or else I wouldn't, honestly, because it's miserable. It's not fun. It's not fun.
Man, you know, I don't know what it equates to in Celsius, but when it is 80, even if it's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit here, like, you know, it feels like 100 degrees. Literally, you know, I felt like a baked potato sitting in that Texas.
Yeah, there's people that will pass out.
At the Bills Dolphins game, it was we would say 35 degrees, which I think for you guys is about 80.
Right.
I mean, that's 80, 85, I think, and that was like for both of us before the game. Even Miami fans were going, "No, this is too intense for us." I mean, inside stadium was completely fine, but when you got Bills fans like. Bills players like passing out on the side, you're like, someone needs to get control of this. Like,
it's crazy.
And Miami built that stadium in a way where the sun shines on that visitor sideline for a lot longer. All right, so one last quick thing: who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Buffalo Bills all day long.
Wow, I kind of hope the Bills win it too.
If I'd put money on it now, Super Bowl Bills 49ers.
Wow.
Eagles in the NFC. That'd be an Eagles NFC Championship game. Close game.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, you heard it here first. Freddie from the Franchise Tag Podcast. Dude, I really appreciate you taking time to talk to us. This has been eye-opening for me, and it's cool to hear from somebody on the ground level who's an NFL fan in in the UK, what that's been like. So we appreciate you guys. If you're listening to this, you watch this, check out the Franchise Tag Podcast. It's a wonderful show. They're not so British that Americans can't understand them, which
is always good.
Which is good.
We're not too dumb to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was trying to say. So, all right. Well, we'll catch you on the next edition of the Jag Wire. Thanks again for coming on, Freddie.
Thank you, Freddie.
Catch him on Twitter at Freddie GTH9 on Twitter. So look him up. Listen to his show.